Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the GW Basketball Insiders podcast. I'm Liam O'Murku alongside David Korn. It's been a little bit. It's been a while since we've had an episode. We had a bit of a break in GW basketball around the Christmas time.
We didn't feel like it was necessary to record an episode for the D3 matchup against St. Mary's. So
yeah,
apologies if that was what you were looking for.
Yeah, I didn't even watch. As I tweeted at the time, I was like, as far as I'm concerned, the game is not happening. It's like at 12 p.m. I was working. I was like, I can't do this. I did watch some of the game. I had no takeaways.
Well, George Mason struggled against a D3, so maybe it could have been closer, but thankfully GW did not struggle.
Yeah. Well, if we're talking about D1 games, GW is 2-0 in the A10 for the first time in 11 years, for the first time since the 2014-15 season. Win over a 99-85 win over Richmond and a 77-55 win over LaSalle. So, David, I know you didn't get to catch a lot of the LaSalle game, but you were watching the Richmond game pretty closely. So why don't we just start with your thoughts on these first two games of A10 play and where you think it leaves GW?
I think these two games showed us what GW's offensive ceiling can be pretty much entirely throughout the Richmond game, and then at the end of the LaSalle game when GW went on that run to close them out. What GW did against Richmond, setting the school record for threes without Garrett Johnson, who's this team's best three-point shooter, I think was incredible. I loved seeing Trey Dinkins get back into the swing of things and become a valuable contributor. He seemed engaged. He was getting his shots off, and I just think that alone is, I use this term a lot, and I've been using this term a lot when talking about GW, but that's such a ceiling raiser for this team and for this offense. And it was really promising. I think, I know this has happened the last 2 years, but the 4 o'clock game against Richmond on New Year's Eve, you're getting ready for your night. You have some friends over. Maybe they don't want to watch GW basketball, but you're convincing them, no, this will be fun.
Yeah.
Have a drink in hand while you're watching. I just think that has become a treasured tradition for me. And I like that there's a lot of A10 basketball leading up to New Year's Eve night. I think it's a lot of fun. And that game was awesome. That game was great. GW looked so good. And Richmond I think they had a deceptively good start to their non-conference. Again, pretty weak strength of schedule, but I know some people were maybe thinking they could do something. I think they are not they're definitely sort of in the middle of the A10, but it was a game they should win. But they played really well, and they took care of business.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It's a fun little. I mean, I know we have the GW George Mason pseudo tradition on MLK Day. Why don't we make GW Richmond a thing on New Year's Eve? Why not? GW and Richmond have a pretty rich history, if you will. And yeah, I think this Richmond team is pretty good. They're not. I would not expect them to be a double bye team, but I certainly don't think they're a pillow fight team. So
yeah, I mean, Mike Walls is a player. Johnson, the guy from Australia, he's pretty talented.
What's up with his fucking the rat tail situation? He's like, what? That's a disgrace. I would make him cut it. I'd be like, you're not stepping on the floor for my team if you do that shit.
So they have guys. I don't know. I think Richmond. I just as a program, I think they got really lucky a few years ago when they got Jordan King and he turned into someone. But I just see them as a team that is sort of struggling to adapt to the NIL era. And
yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's an institutional thing. They need to buy in from an institutional perspective because they're not going to be able. I mean, for what it's worth, this is also a thing with GW, and there's nothing that can really be done about it. They can't get these guys that have been at multiple schools and are coming for their 4th year. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, Richmond is on a similar level to GW academically.
Yeah. And GW is a better school than Richmond academically, just for what it's worth. I just want to throw that out there. But I get what you're saying.
Yes, but for the GW Richmond Davidson academically.
Yeah, no, they're all on the same sort of.
And the Davidson has its own problems because it's a college, it doesn't have grad programs, so they can't get grad transfers. So they are very hamstrung.
Yeah. But, I mean, going back to the game itself, 17 made threes. It's a program record. I think Dinkins and Autry combined for 12 of them. Dinkins was fucking, he was just pulling up from anywhere and scoring. It was really – He has these games every so often It's not every so often. It's relatively common where he just
It
cannot
wasn't
miss.
for a while. He didn't score in
Yeah.
double figures for like 6 games.
Yeah. It was three bid league. They tweeted something like, Trey Dinkins is having his once every few games, heat check or whatever. He was like 6 for
Yeah,
9.
Tyler knows Trey Dinkins well because he was at Duquesne a lot. Or Tyler goes to Duquesne and based in Pittsburgh, and so he knows the Duquesne the Dinkins experience from Duquesne.
Yeah. I've had 1 or 2 Duquesne fans who have been in my mentions after a GW. It was I forget what game it was. It was some non-conference game where they basically were like, I hope you're enjoying Trey Dinkins now because he'll lose you a game later in the season. And I was like,
he won he won GW a game against Richmond, so that's cool.
Right. He won GW game against Richmond, 1 GW game against South Florida. I was like, listen, man, like he hasn't lost that many games this year. And I think that's part of the thing is GW's.
Well, maybe he lost
you know what I mean? Like,
I mean, maybe making some threes that could have beat GW could have beaten Delaware. GW could have beaten Middle Tennessee. They could have beaten Murray State. Could have beaten McNeese.
That's fair. But he hasn't had a performance where you're like,
no. He hasn't shot GW out of any games yet.
Right. Agreed. So yeah, as I mentioned, well, I mean, I guess we're not fully there yet, but first 2-0 start in A10 play in 11 years. Do you have any more thoughts about the Richmond game? You said you watched that one, probably a little more carefully.
Yeah, I mean, I just think with this type of 3-point shooting, the 3-point shooting is obviously great, but I think my other big takeaway from that is how much spacing it gives Rafael Castro, who has had an incredible start to conference play. And if
so fucking good.
The opposing defenses have to sort of respect 4 other guys around him taking threes and making threes, then he can really do what he wants. I don't think there's a one-on-one matchup in the Atlantic 10 that he isn't going to win most of the time.
Correct.
Yeah. And so, I mean, if GW is shooting this way, that is just only great for Castro. And what to make a reference to The Hobbit, which I'm in the process of rereading, out of the frying pan and into the fire. If you choose to defend the threes more, Castro will get you. If you choose to maybe for a double on Castro, then GW can just find the open man from 3 because there are 4 of them. And so it's a great team. Luke Hunger made a 3 against Richmond too. That was cool. What did you think about when you saw him take that?
I think you know what I thought. I was like, what the fuck is he doing? Why is he taking that 3? And then it went in and I was like, oh.
There's a lot of swearing from me today. What's the cause of this?
I don't know. I'm still a little angry about the Eagles. Which ultimately a little not super consequential. I'll try and dial it back a little bit, act like an adult. Luke Hunger missed a 3 against LaSalle. It was like a contested 3 with like 15 seconds left on the shot clock, which I was not happy about. But
definitely not a grenade situation. He just took the 3.
Yeah. But Castro has been incredible. Castro has been really, really good. And against Richmond, he didn't miss a free throw. He's been better from the free throw line this year. So that's encouraging. We're going to talk about him a little bit more
during conference play. He did the same thing last year. He was
he
good, and then during conference play, he just turned it up. And
yeah,
I mean, I think he's probably the conference player of the year favorite right now. I mean, it's 3 years. I remember I asked for clarification on this last year, and I was told there are not clear guidelines about whether or not conference player of the year should be just based on conference player, their whole body of work. So I think that's sort of up for interpretation, but I think with what he's done so far, it's pretty tough to find someone else who's been better, right?
Yeah.
St. Louis,
the other person that comes to mind is Robbie Avila, but Rafael Castro is number 1 player
because St. Louis is so deep and they spread the ball so much. I mean, I would argue there is an argument that Avila is as good of a player as Castro, but I don't think that statistically there is a world in which he comes close to him because of the way St. Louis's offense works. Yeah.
Castro dominated Avila last year in the only matchup they had. He was significantly better. So
and he knows that. He likes to bring that up.
Yeah. But Rafael Castro currently number 1 player in the A10 on KenPom in terms of whatever player rating things. Next is Frank Mitchell and then Corey Mincy. So But yeah, he's been incredible. He was even better, I think, in the LaSalle win.
So what do you see from him against LaSalle?
He was it looked effortless. No turnovers. One of the things I love about him is obviously he's got the size and the athleticism to get blocks, but like he had 3 steals, which like, for a guard is like whatever. But this dude's like 6'11", and he's getting 3 steals and like getting run out dunks. Like it's
Well, because he's one of the things that Castro does so well is he has such good anticipation getting into these passing lanes, and he's a good enough ball handler, and he's fast enough where once he intercepts that pass, he can just get in transition, take like 3 or 4 strides, and then get an easy transition dunk, and no one can stop it. It is such an asset to have a big who can run transition like that.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was probably halfway through the second half. I think I tweeted this. It was like, you can't take him off the floor right now. Like he's, GW runs their offense and it's like, okay, break in case of emergency, give it to Castro. And he just like puts a spin move on a guy or just lays it up and gets an and one. And it's like, it just looks so effortless for him. And especially if he's making more earlier in the game, he missed a few free throws, but especially if he's making those free throws, those and ones, then it's like, you can't stop him. There's nothing you can really do. He was also really good on the glass. He was good on both offensive and defensive glass, especially early in the game. He was very good on the offensive glass, and then later in the game he was better on the defensive glass.
So, Liam, I want to table this conversation on Castro for now because we're going to come back to him in a bit. When I think we're going to have a really fun combo. I put a bit of work into this. I'm excited to talk about it. But one other thing I want to bring up, this is something that we saw the first 2 games, both Richmond and LaSalle, is there was a change to the starting lineup. Jean Aranguren looks like he's now this GW's starting 2 guard. Trey Autry's sort of sliding up to play as like the 3rd guard, I guess, as an undersized 3. And it looks really good. What do you think about the starting lineup decision?
I mean, they've won, so I think it's a good decision. It's like the 4th down in the NFL. It's like, oh well, if they got it and if they went for it, they got it. It's a good decision. If they went for it, and they didn't get it, bad decision. No, I'm being a little facetious, but I think this team is so deep that the starting lineup almost doesn't really matter all that much. It's kind of more important who's in the game towards the end of the game. We saw one game from Aranguren earlier in the year where he kind of or maybe it was a little more than one game, but he flashed his scoring potential. But I don't know.
He's a great driver.
Yeah. The one thing I love about him is he has these, which is it's interesting for a guard. He gets these tip-ins. Like you see like Castro or whatever misses
he's really good,
and he just tips
it. He has really good feel around the rim, like great timing about when to sort of go up for those offensive rebounds. I know exactly what you mean. I feel like all of GW's guards are kind of great at that. I know Trey Autry has had a few of those. I feel like Christian Jones has as well. It's been really cool to see everyone sort of get involved on the offensive glass and really chase these shots down.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we also have to at least briefly mention the fact that I think I mentioned this before, but like, I have to wonder what's going through John Aranguren's head when you wake up and you see that what happened in Venezuela. I think he was happy about it. He posted online that he was happy about it. But that's just an interesting thing to be going into the game.
Yeah, I know there are a lot of Venezuelans in Major League Baseball, and from the reporting I've seen and anecdotes that people are sharing, it seems like the consensus among baseball people with ties to Venezuela is that they are psyched. I mean, I think we should not try and speak on.
Yeah, no, I'm not trying to speak on his behalf, but he posted something that was literally like, "We ain't sad, man, we happy." So I think it's fair to say that he's.
No, I mean, it is super interesting, and I mean, it's definitely something you have to wonder about what's going through his head, because I'm sure his family there that's impacted. I'm sure he has a lot of strong feelings about this, and glad he's here and safe. I don't know.
Yeah, agreed. So yeah, the starting lineup, I mean, it's worked. I think it's one of those things where until it stops working, you probably you probably stick with it. So I think it's fair to assume that they'll probably do that again against Dayton. But one thing that was interesting, LaSalle is very bad 3-point shooting team. They averaged 5.3 3-pointers per game. They made 5 in the first half. They made 0 in the second half. So I don't know whether that was something that was an emphasis in the locker room or what, but it it worked, and it was part of the general trend that you've seen in some of these other games where, like, just because GW has so many players, they're able to kind of wear some of these teams down a little bit.
Yeah.
So the 3-point shooting definitely fell off for LaSalle.
Yeah, and I think that's a great transition to GW's next opponent, Dayton, who they're playing tomorrow. And Dayton's a little shorthanded right now. I've done some digging, and I think the status of their two primary big men, Amel Latong and Malcolm Thomas, are both up in the air. Malcolm Thomas, if you're wondering, son of former Washington Wizard A10 Thomas, he played his high school ball in the DC area. I saw him play in high school a few times. But both of those guys' statuses are up in the air. I've asked around. It's nothing. I think the hope is that one of them would play because Jacob Connor, who sort of was the de facto 5 but isn't really a 5, really was overmatched by Miles Rubin when Dayton almost lost to a very bad Loyola team. And so if GW is able to go into Dayton with them so shorthanded at the 5, it's going to look really good for Rafael Castro to have another huge game.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a big opportunity. You almost kind of, especially when if you're missing those two guys, you kind of expect him to have a game like he did against LaSalle, or even a game like he did against Richmond, where he puts up 25 plus points and just looks completely dominant. Yeah, I mean, they were both listed. Neither of them have played since December 20th. They were both listed as out, not questionable, out against Loyola Chicago. I also think that Loyola Chicago team
is availability reports, by the way. Just take a second.
Awesome.
Just take a second shot at that.
So awesome.
It's great, especially for guys like me and you who are not able to be in the arena every day, and we are not able to figure this info out on our own. It is great to be able to have this confirmed before tip.
Yeah, it also eliminates some of this nonsense that has happened where it's like we're like, you show up to the game and like you can see that the guy is not warming up, and you're told like, oh well, only post about it 10 minutes before the game. It's like, what are we doing here? Like, this is not. So whatever. It makes it very cut and dry. I think it's a really good thing. I think I kind of understand why they don't do this, but like I would like it if it could be like even if it was just like a hockey level of like lower body, upper body, ankle, whatever. Like, because I am curious like what the injury is. I don't know what Garrett Johnson's specific injury was, why he missed the game against Richmond, the game against Richmond. So
I
know beggars can't be choosers.
That it is just continual management of various knee tumor, all of that.
Right. As we've talked about before, I think it's kind of fair to assume that he's never going to be at the full strength.
I think we know if it was new.
Yeah, that's true. So he did not look. I didn't think he looked great against LaSalle. Maybe he was just kind of still.
I mean, they definitely kept the training wheels on. I don't think they pushed
which
him.
is fine.
I think is the absolute correct approach.
Yeah, I'd rather have him ready to go fully against Dayton than overwork him against a LaSalle team that is not very good.
So GW could get very lucky with this Dayton matchup if Latong and or Thomas are out. More so Latong, who I think is one of my favorite players to watch. But I just want to read through some of Dayton's results this year. They beat Georgetown. They killed Florida State. They beat Marquette.
Florida State's fucking terrible. Sorry.
Yes, I saw them in person against UMass, a UMass team that is,
that's right.
I think is winless in the MAC so far, right?
Ooh, not good.
It's not looking good. All I know is Corey Sage is crashing out a lot online.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not tweeting about them for the rest of the year. That's not going to happen.
I saw the UMass NIL collective attacking Curry Hicks Sage, which I think is not exactly the right strategy. But I don't know. I guess I'm not making those decisions. But
Right.
if I were the Minutemen Collective, whatever they call themselves, I'm not sure I would be going after arguably the most passionate, knowledgeable, and well-connected person in the UMass basketball sphere.
Yeah. He can be annoying sometimes. I can understand how sometimes he can get under.
No, but I just think that's not the frontward-facing look you want to have.
Agreed. Completely with you. Yeah. That's
so.
not
And then I think Dayton's most impressive result, and I think it's the most impressive result in the Atlantic 10 and maybe in all of mid-major basketball, was losing by 4 to BYU.
Yeah.
And really having that go down to the wire. BYU is one of my favorite teams this year. I think they are an easy Final Four contender with AJ DeBanter, Richie Saunders, Keita down low. They are awesome.
Yeah,
and
they're really good.
So the fact that Dayton hung with them and really not just hung, but they were in it until the final seconds. I think that's the most impressive result in one of the most impressive results in this college basketball season at any level and any conference. So if GW is able to go into Dayton and get a win there, assuming Latong and Thomas are able to come back, they'll be able to get some wins after this. This could be a great opportunity for GW to get a metric improving win. And I know it's silly to be talking about this, but I've seen some bracketology stuff online that shows GW is not totally dead in the water. There is still sort of a path out of this, and a win at Dayton would go a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if they like not, they probably don't need to like go 18-0, but if they have a season where they're like, 15-3, 16-2, and they beat the right teams, or I guess probably more like they lose to the right teams, there's a conversation to be had. It'll be tough, and I think, you're more likely to see the 8th best team in the Big 12 or whatever. But, if you win that many games, then there's certainly a conversation to be had. Can we talk about GW has not beaten Dayton at Dayton since February of 2005.
Yeah.
There are probably players on both teams that were not alive when that happened. Someone posted on the message board earlier today, someone posted the highlight of the buzzer beater. It's incredible. I think I had watched this before. It's like tied game with 10 seconds left. Dayton inbounds the ball. Carl Elliott steals it with 3 seconds left and hits a runner from the logo.
Yeah.
Hits a runner from the logo with time expiring, wins the game. Carl Hobbs walks off the court in tears. It's like that's amazing. Like that's incredible. That's some pretty sweet GW basketball lore. I guess that was the year before they went to the Sweet 16, right? Or no, I'll mess it up anyway. But
and
that was true.
Another thing, one more point about the Dayton game. It'll be on CBS Sports Network. And
should we do the rant?
Well, that's not where I was going with this, but you'll see where I'm going. If people remember the last time GW played at Dayton, there was some dissatisfaction with the ESPN Plus broadcasters.
Oh, yes.
So that will not be a problem because it will be a national game. So CBS will have their own people in there. And so
this is true.
I think it was not as bad as the racist libel that the TCU women's basketball broadcasters did to GW women's basketball, but I think it's as bad as it can get without going to that. So that is a positive development for everyone, that it will be CBS Sports Network and not the Dayton ESPN Plus guys.
Yeah, for the first time ever, it's a good thing that the game is going to be on CBS Sports Network. I don't actually have as much of a problem with CBS Sports Network now that I have CBS Sports Network. I was just mad, especially when I was a student, because they gave us the Xfinity streaming thing, and CBS Sports Network was not included in it. And I was like,
I don't believe you can even get it on Paramount, which I think is
you can't get it on Paramount. I was very upset, and I've done this numerous times on this podcast before. When people are like, "Oh, it's a nationally televised game." I don't count CBS Sports Network as nationally televised. I just don't think it is. So, whatever. That's neither here nor there. Um, so one more thing about this game. Well, maybe more. I mean, GW needs to take care of the ball, and they need to keep Dayton off the line, and they need to take advantage of the advantage that they have in 3-point shooting. Dayton is not a good 3-point defense team. GW's defense is terrible. They're going to have to score 85 to 90 points to like pretty much beat anyone of consequence.
But the thing is, Dayton didn't without Latong and Thomas, they have not looked great against Fordham and Loyola.
Yeah, that's true.
I just feel like it's really difficult to sort of predict how this game is going to go without knowing their statuses. And again, like I said, I've reached out to people close to the program, and it's not clear. And so I think this is going to be one of those situations where if you check a few hours before game time on the player availability reports and see that those guys are out, the game plan is very simple. You get it to Castro, and either he goes up with it or he gets swarmed by 3 guards or something, and then he can kick it out because, as we've seen, he is a willing and effective passer. So I think the game plan is pretty simple. You play inside out if those guys are out, and you figure it out from there.
Yeah. Gambling is a sin, but there's probably some money to be made if you check the availability report and, Latong or Thomas or both are out. I don't imagine this is not, like NFL level. We're not going to get like.
Vegas is reloading the A10 website, waiting for the player availability reports to change the lines.
I don't know. I would not put it past them, but I'm saying, I think the player availability report will come out at 5:15 on Tuesday night. So if you check at 5:20, 5:15, and you see something, and you're like, I think there's some value here, maybe for GW, maybe for Dayton. That's just your little your gambling corner tip of the day. I may not even end up taking that, but we'll see. Do we want to move on to our next topic here?
I think we do. So walk it in and sort of set me up with this. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've seen a little bit of buzz about, as Rafael Castro has been playing better, there's been buzz for him. He's probably the front runner for A10 Player of the Year, but he's also getting some discussion and maybe some NBA draft talk, which poses the question, what does his professional future look like? Yeah. And are we going to get a GW player drafted in the NBA draft?
So I've seen at least 2 people other than myself discuss Rafael Castro's NBA futures. I guess I'm a draft guy now, kind of.
You are, yeah.
I've been doing some NBA draft writing for Bullets Forever. Shout out Mapaderno, the Washington Wizards SB Nation site. And I did a piece last week about the best local prospects. And I had Castro as the second best prospect in all of Maryland, DC, and Virginia. So the most expansive definition of DMV.
Right. Who was number 1?
Actually, I lied. I had him as the third.
Okay.
Neoclis Avdalas at Virginia Tech is number 1. KJ Lewis at Georgetown is number 2. And then Rafael Castro is number 3. If anyone was wondering. And then, but yeah, so I have that. No Ceilings. They have a great Substack page on a ton of NBA and NBA draft stuff. They have an article where they had Castro as sort of the first player they mentioned in some sort of sleeper guys for the second round. And then my guy, Hoop Hound Matt, who does some stuff for A10 Talk in the Center Hub, he had Castro as one of his sort of late second round diamond in the rough picks. And so No Ceilings and Matt, those are 2 guys I respect in the NBA draft space. And I know there have been a lot of scouts at games where Rafael Castro has played the past 2 years. And so he should be on teams' radar at this point. And I think he's worthy of consideration.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, if you had to give a % chance of him being drafted right now, obviously a lot can change. We're like, 6 months out, 5 months out from the actual draft. But what would that % be?
I'd say about 10%. I don't think it's a high chance right now. And before this episode, I did some looking back, and there's not a lot of recent precedent for mid-major centers to be drafted in sort of in the second round. The only one since 2021. In 2021, there were two, Neemias Queta and then Charles Bassey were in 2021. Queta, by the way, one of my favorite players to watch in the NBA right now. But the only one who was drafted since then was Jonathan Mogbo with the Raptors, who got some minutes there. And I know that's sort of a cherry pick stat, but he's also teammates with Jameson Battle, by the way. Have to work that GW connection in there.
Shout out Jameson Battle.
Shout out Jameson Battle.
Good player.
Great. He's having an NBA career, which I don't think anyone really thought when he was in Foggy Bottom. So I think it's just part of the thing where there's sort of the assumption that at like the center position, at least, it's more valuable to have had that sort of high major Power 5 experience of going up against more NBA caliber athletes at the 5 position day in and day out. Whereas Castro in the non-con, right? The only real, I think, professional caliber bigs he faced were in Florida. And he looked good against them too. I know his counting stats weren't great, but I think he outplayed Alex Condon, who is going to be an NBA draft pick this year. And Ruben Chinyelu, who isn't going to be, but is a huge, huge guy. And I think probably the biggest, other than Frank Mitchell, player that he will face this season. And so he looked great there. The A10 centers this year, I think, are as good as they've ever been. Hopefully he'll get, I guess, for his draft stock, hopefully he'll get the chance to go up against Latong. He'll have a chance to face Miles Rubin, Frank Mitchell at St. Bonaventure, Robbie Avila. That'll be more for his defense because Avila is not the strongest interior defender, but that'll be a chance for Castro to show off his two-way ability to see how he can do against that. I'm sure I'm missing some people right now. Alan Spock at Mason has looked great. So the center position in the A10 is as deep as it will be. David Dixon, if Hughley plays again for Duquesne, which, again, there's a lot of mystery surrounding that. So basically what I'm just trying to say is he will have the chance to prove himself against real players. If he keeps doing that, I would feel pretty good, even if he's not drafted, that he could at least earn his way. He will for sure be a summer league player, and I wouldn't be shocked to see him get a two-way deal.
Yeah. So that was kind of my next question for you was like, what do you think is the most likely ceiling for him? Like, is he an NBA player? Is he like a guy who goes and plays in Lithuania or something? Or is he kind of something in between?
I think he's definitely an NBA player. I mean, he's so good. He's an NBA athlete. And
yes,
anyone with his athleticism and size and skill, I think, has a spot in the NBA. I don't think he's going to be an all-star necessarily, but you look around the NBA, if there's a guy who's like 6'10", 6'11", who can move like he does and has real touch and isn't just sort of an energy guy, he'll have a spot. He can hold his own on both ends. He's shown he can play against like bigger, heavier, stronger guys, which he will have to do there. So I think that helps him, that he has shown that has not been a problem. And I tried to figure out who a good sort of comp would be for him. And I think that's pretty hard, but a guy I came up with, it's not perfect, but is Trace Jackson Davis on the Warriors. He came out of Indiana. He was I believe the 58th pick in the 2023 draft. And over the past 2 years for the Warriors, he's been in and out of their rotation and he's been a contributor. He's a non-shooter, but he's still found a way to make plays, be an energy guy off the bench. And I think that's sort of Castro's role. He can come off the bench, give you good minutes, get you a few quick buckets, play some defense, and come off. And again, just be a jolt of energy. Maybe get one of these transition buckets we talked about earlier in the show about how he's able to get in there. He can run the floor a bit. I think he definitely has an NBA future, and I think that's really exciting. The last GW player to get drafted was J.R. Pinnock with the 58th pick by the Mavericks in 2006. There have been a few NBA players since then. Of course, we just talked about Jameson Battle, although he's mostly remembered for his time not at GW, but again, still started at GW. Yuta Watanabe, Patricio Guerrero, Tyler Kavanaugh, all of those guys have been in the NBA. So you can make the NBA at a GW. That's not like this would be shocking. And I definitely think Castro. This wasn't really on my radar before this year. I don't know if it's just something I hadn't really thought about. Maybe I hadn't seen, but I think he's improved. I think he's gotten better. And I see no reason why he shouldn't be with what he does on the floor. I mean, anyone listening to this show watches Castro as much as anyone else in the world. And to me, he looks like an NBA guy. He looks like someone who could hold his own.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that gives me pause is like he doesn't have a 3-point shot. He just doesn't take 3-pointers at all. And sometimes his free throw shooting can be not great. But like he has the athleticism, he has the speed, he has like the kind of the quick hands and the agility.
But for someone of his size, right?
Yeah.
It's if he was going to be a star, sure, right. But that's not his role. That wouldn't be his role. And so I think a big thing in the NBA draft that I think people sort of forget is that Castro isn't going to go right now. Castro is GW's best player. He is the focal point of their offense. He can score 30 and 15. You wouldn't be shocked. That is never going to happen for him in the NBA. Well, at least, I mean, maybe it will. That would be awesome. But that would not be what teams anticipate his role on their team to be. Yeah. They would see him as a guy who could give them 10 minutes off the bench and provide a jolt on both ends and maybe get a few transition buckets and do a few things on the defensive side and make a mess of things. Yeah. Run around, go all out hustle people, all of that. And I think he can totally do that. He has the skill set. He has enough time. He's not going to be asked to do a lot in the NBA. And so it would be a change in role for him. But I don't think the 3 really matters for that.
Yeah.
Because
I think that's a good point.
If you're an NBA guy, right, would you really want him, let's say he starts developing this 3, whatever, because he doesn't have like a broken free throw or anything. We've seen him take some mid-ranges. They go in sometimes, they don't look broken. But is it really worth it for your end of bench guy you took with a late second round pick? Do you really want him hucking threes? No, you want the other guys who are all NBA 3-point shooters doing that. So I don't think that it's just not part of his game. I think that's okay. I mean, yeah, that would help, but I don't think that will stop him from being an NBA player, if this makes sense what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I completely get what you're saying. Sort of going back to the mid-major just kind of thing you were talking about.
Yeah.
And connecting it with the Trayce Jackson-Davis comparison, which I think is a good one. I think they're very similar players. The only difference is Trayce Jackson-Davis was McDonald's All-American and, was an All-American in college and stuff like that. So there's like, it sounds stupid and this probably isn't how it should work, but like, if you play at Indiana and you're on Fox or on ESPN kind of all the time, it's a little bit different than, playing for GW and basically needing people to beat the drum. And maybe, who knows, maybe like if Castro goes out there and has an incredible pre-draft process and whatever, then maybe he gets taken in the late second round. I just think it's a bit of more of an uphill battle than it would be for, a non-mid-major player.
Yeah, but I agree. And I think that's always going to be the case. And I think right now that's going to be tougher than ever with the sort of talent disparity that you see between the high majors and the mid-majors and sort of the perception that mid-majors have right now. And like the lack of upsets you're seeing and the lack of, it's cool whenever a mid-major now like gets a vote in the AP top 25. So I think there is a perception problem, but I think another thing, if we're talking about Rafael Castro's NBA future that cannot be ignored, is Chris Caputo's connections with the NBA. I think when you look at St. Bonaventure, a big thing has been how Woj's NBA connections. And I don't think really St. Bonaventure has an NBA player right now. But they did that whole draft thing and whatever. And Woj, I'm not comparing Caputo to Woj, but Caputo has a lot of friendships within the Miami Heat organization. The Van Gundy, one of the Van Gundys, I forget which one, came to a practice to talk to the team.
He's friends with Chris Finch, the Timberwolves.
I'm pretty sure he's friends with Tibbs too. So right. there are I think Caputo's sort of, I guess, network, I think, would be a big help here. And if there are teams interested, he is reachable. He's a guy a lot of people trust. And So I think that is a huge asset for him and any future GW players playing for Chris Caputo who are sort of entering the draft process.
Yeah. We should keep an eye on the scouts who are showing up to games. They always list that on the media report. I know neither of us are really going to be at the actual games, but we can get someone.
There's a thing like last year when during the NBA All-Star break there were like 36 scouts to see Rasheer Fleming.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, like, I'm just now thinking about this. Like, it's kind of an advantage to playing in a city. You know what I mean? Like, you play these home games.
Absolutely. Because I know when a lot of opposing teams, GW, if they have guys that are on NBA radars, scouts will choose that game to go to because it's an NBA city. The Wizards are there. A team's playing the Wizards will have personnel there. It's easy to get to. You can fly direct flights in there from anywhere. So that is a big asset for GW. There's a lot of other places around GW that they could want to see, high schools and colleges within 2 or 3 hours. So it's a big help. I mean, I don't think that really matters because I think if he's identified as someone, he does. But I think maybe it might have helped last year get him on some of these radars when teams may have come in looking at other guys and then noticed Castro.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a shame we're not going to get Castro Avila that matchup in at the Smith Center. Although we got it last year, I was there, and Castro dominated. All right. Anything else as part of the Rafael Castro? No,
I mean, I think him getting drafted would be really cool if it happens. It would probably, unless something really shocking happens with his play, it would probably be one of the last picks of the second round. But it's cool that these are conversations that we're having about a GW player. I think it's a lot of fun. Rafael Castro is so good and so much fun to watch, and it would be thrilling to see him get his name called. And for anyone with any connection to the GW program, that would be huge. It would be an incredible boost to recruiting and the transfer portal to show that Chris Caputo turned a guy who was nothing at Providence into an NBA draft pick. So that would go such a long way. If he does this, GW could become like any high major center that feels like they are not having their talents maximized will be knocking down the doors to play at GW based on what's happened with Castro. So even now it's been a success, but
yeah. Well, and that's the thing is he was I mean, when he came in, I didn't expect him to be this. I was like, yeah, okay, I think he'll be all right. I kind of expected more of a stretch Akimbola sort of pipeline.
Hey, G League player, Babatunde Akimbola.
That's true. Does he play in the G League or is he just on the roster?
Gotta say, I'm not locked in on the Texas Legends right now, so I don't know.
Well, that's your loss.
That on me. I guess I'm stretched a little too thin in my basketball watching. If I can't work in a Texas Legends game on the Octobox.
That's like some Zach Bovair shit. Like that's the type of like, yeah, I was watching the Texas Legends game on my fifth television.
This is what we're gonna wrap with. Shout out Zach Bovair in St. Louis for dominating the new KenPom statistic for like
GW's fourth.
GW's
fourth.
So GW's fourth, St. Louis is first, I believe, right?
Yep.
So I think that's a lot of Zach Bovair influence in both of those. So
yeah.
Zach, if you're listening right now, shout out.
Yeah. Average 2-point distribution. There you go. St. Louis, Texas A&M, Marquette, GW, right below GW, South Florida. So there you go. And then William & Mary is also up there. So, all right. Well, I think that's it. We'll be back at some point after the Dayton game and before the end of the season. So
yeah.
That narrative.
If you want something to do before the Dayton game, if you want to be a real sicko, GW and Dayton have a common opponent, UMBC. So I know the coaching staff is going to be taking a lot of stock into that, preparing. So if you want to rewatch Dayton UMBC and GW UMBC to see how they might play against each other, that could be something.
Dayton only beat them by 6, right?
Yes. And so
GW beat them by like 40 or something. So.
Yeah. So I don't know if anything can be gleaned from that, but that is something that people will be paying attention to.
Yeah, that and see if you can scour the social media channels of Dayton to see if who's in the background. Is that Malcolm Thomas? Does he have a boot on? Does he?
Think Amel Latong's like 99-year-old pen pal think she knows.
Oh my God, I forgot. Jesus. Yeah. Yeah. Well, listen.
Any
GW versus
GW fans in Dayton, Ohio, track her down and see what she knows.
Yeah. GW versus Dayton on January 6th. This is a huge day for Dayton fans. So,
Great way to end it.
freaks.